People are disconnected. They're so isolated, they're so lonely. Loneliness, it's the same impact of having 15 cigarettes in a day.
Hi, my name's Dr. Lalitaa. I'm a psychologist and I'm here today to talk about high-functioning anxiety. High-functioning anxiety is like having two sides of a coin. On one side, you're organised, social, hardworking and always meeting deadlines. You're the high achiever, appearing calm and collective. At the flip side, and the flip of the coin, you'll find the excessive worrier, the perfectionist who's often exhausted, with a constant fear of failure and worries of disappointing others. This side can struggle with procrastination and battles with insomnia. But where does this come from? From a young age, we're conditioned to show up a certain way, often neglecting or not knowing how to address the parts of ourselves that exist beneath the surface. And this is not about placing blame upon our attachments or parents, but understanding why we show up the way we do, where we learn that we are not enough, and learn to cope by disconnecting from our bodies, living outside in instead of inside out.
Dr. Lalitaa, can you tell us what is high-functioning anxiety and how does it differ to other anxiety disorders?
The best way I describe high-functioning anxiety is a bit like having or visualising a swan. So the swan, when you see it on the surface, it's so graceful and it looks like it's got it together, it's like moving it's controlled, it's moving at the speed that it is, but underneath it's sort of flapping away. And that's exactly how we see high-functioning anxiety. Everyone looks like they've got it together, they're hardworking, they're the achievers, they're the ones who seem to be very social, very organised, but underneath, actually there's so much more going on. They're procrastinating, they're perfectionists, they're often exhausted, they're lonely, disconnected, and often really struggle with sleep as well, but no one sees that side. And that's because we struggle with showing that side because of shame and because of other emotions. So it differs from other anxiety because it's not debilitating, it doesn't stop you. In fact, it pushes you to do this high achieving way of being in the world. And that's where it differs with other anxiety symptoms.
Yeah, I mean, it's resonating quite a lot. And obviously, I've experienced anxiety in many forms, but I think this high-functioning type is so interesting because, as you say, we're all comparing ourselves to each other and we think, oh, they've really got their stuff together here, why am I suffering? But we don't know what's going on underneath the water and it can be causing a hell of a lot of stress.
Definitely.
What would you suggest you do to try and lessen that anxiety, that chaos underneath the water with the smoothly gliding swan? What can we do to lessen that anxiety?
It comes down to the relationship that we hold with ourselves. So often it's like we're the ones who are pushing that away because we feel like other people aren't going to accept that, but it may be that we're not accepting it. So what I would really suggest people to do is start looking at the things that you're trying to avoid, that the shadow parts of you that you're resisting away, you don't want to see, because those are the parts that we actually want to integrate in and to show up being authentically by looking at these parts. So it might be, for example, you're at work and you're feeling exhausted, you're feeling tired, but you don't want to let anyone else know. You don't want anyone else to know that you're exhausted, you're overthinking, you're ruminating. Instead, you want to show that you've got everything together. But actually, how do we show up being authentic and really just connecting and letting people know, actually, this is quite exhausting for me. So it's learning to be more real with yourself.
I think this communication part's really interesting because I'm imagining it's very helpful to express how you're feeling to other people and to start maybe asking for help or at least telling other people what's going on for you. That can be a really tricky thing if you're not used to it and you're used to being independent and nope, I'm just going to crack on with it, this is how I operate. How would you suggest that you might start that sort of communication and expressing yourself authentically to tell people what you need?
I'm smiling there because when you're talking about that, it's like we're very hyper independent and we've learned to show up being, I can't trust anyone else. No one else is going to be there. Yeah, people are living life because they feel like people are going to disappoint them. People aren't going to be there for them in the way that they need because once upon a time that did happen to them. So now they live life with this belief that I have to do it myself. I can't trust other people. I have to be in control of this. And actually, no, you don't. It's sometimes us communicating to other people that this is what I need. And maybe once upon a time you weren't able to do that. But where you are now as an adult, it's you addressing and understanding, this is what I do need. Let me or how am I able to communicate this to the other person to let them know that this is what's important to me?
It's a really complicated situation because already we've discussed within the realm of high functioning anxiety, yes, there's anxiety, there's also this sort of controlling element to it, there's this heightened sense of responsibility and independence at play as well, and a reluctancy to ask for help or to delegate. It seems like a lot to unpick, but are there long-term detrimental effects to holding this all in place, would you say?
People are disconnected. Like the people that come to me and when I start working with them, they're so isolated, they're so lonely, they're so disconnected, and there's research that has come out where loneliness, it's the same impact of having 15 cigarettes in a day. So that's physically, the impact is, it's detrimental to your well-being, to your mental health.
Yeah.
So we're so worried about messing up or failing because someone else is going to see us in a certain way, and often they're not even going to look at us because they're preoccupied with something
They're thinking
else.
about themselves.
You're on the train and you're like, please don't fall, don't do this, don't do this.
Yeah.
And people are just in their own little worlds, but yet we give so much focus onto what people are going to think, what people are going to think, and it becomes our life. So we're living based on, I've just noticed she didn't laugh, or I just noticed that he didn't do this, or I just noticed this, let me just be this, or let me just do this. And we're living life like that, and it's like, how do we just learn to step in and just be, rather than I need to do, I need to do, I need to do.
Yeah, and I guess sort of accept that things will and might go wrong, and that's okay, and that level of perfectionism can just be dialed down a bit. It doesn't really matter a lot of the time if things go a little bit off-piste. I'm sort of telling myself this here now. It doesn't matter when things go a bit tits up. But it doesn't. I think we're also obsessed with this idea of everything's got to go perfectly and it's got to go to plan, and that causes more stress.
And where does that come from? It comes from that place of, it's a fear of what are people going to think?
So I've got some really lovely questions and points from the Happy Place community. This first one says, what strategies do you have when anxiety limits relationships and career progression? I guess this plays into that sort of sense of loneliness maybe as well. What would you suggest if people out there are aware that their anxiety is limiting them in certain ways?
I think for me it's really getting to the root of why is anxiety showing up in the way that it is. So you're in a certain situation and your response is anxiety, so you're in a fight or flight situation. So something within you is telling you this is a threatful situation. So for me it's getting to the root and trying to understand what the triggers are to be able to help you navigate that situation. Because you can take yourself out of that situation, put yourself in somewhere else, and that will keep coming up. So it is important to address what the root and what's really going on underneath the anxiety.
Yeah, it will keep coming back until you look at it. I've learned that one the hard way. Oh, this is such a good one, and I so understand this. How do you stop masking and slowly come back to yourself? Because when you're high functioning in this anxiety, you get really used to putting on a bit of a show, putting on a face. Not everybody, but many people will, because they're the ones that are reaching for that perfection, or they're high achieving, whatever it might be. How do you stop that level of masking?
I think it really is about you stepping into your authentic self, and to do that it's really understanding, hang on, when I'm masking and I'm pretending everything's fine, what's really going on here? So I'm pretending everything's fine because I'm scared, what are they going to think if things aren't okay? So I think it's really addressing underneath this perfectionism and this masking, what's going on, what are we afraid of showing the world? So again, when we do that deeper work, we can understand what is going on. So what I would say is, when you're in a situation you feel like you're masking, just take a real deep breath in. Just really connect back to mind body, grounding yourself in and taking the opportunity to step in and be like, right, what is going on? Reflecting on that, journaling on that, and making sense of why is it I'm masking in this situation? So you're using your experiences as research, which is really important because it just gives you insights into yourself.
Yeah, it's so interesting because sometimes we don't actually take the time or care to look and go, oh, why am I doing this? Or what is underneath this feeling? And journaling is such a good way because you are getting out those thoughts and you're unfiltered in your approach to those thoughts. It's really brilliant. It's been so great talking to you, Dr. Lalitaa. I really appreciate it. It's a big subject and one that lots of people are going to be sitting there nodding along to, so I really appreciate your advice and your wisdom.
Thank you, Fearne, for having me. It's been lovely to see you and meet you.
It's been so lovely. Thank you.
Thank you.
I hope that you've enjoyed watching this as well and that you've picked up some tips or it's made you think a bit more about high functioning anxiety, whether whether it's you experiencing it or somebody that you dearly love. If you enjoyed this video, I urge you to go and look back on our archive. We've got loads of brilliant videos on these really juicy topics for you to get your teeth into. So do go back and watch them, and also do hit subscribe. Thank you for watching.